Mr. Investor, welcome back to the channel, baby. Please remember, none of this is financial advice for entertainment only. So today we saw Bionanogenomics open up at, I think it was $1.73, 74, 75. It had a steep drop to 168 and then it rose all the way to $1.80 or $1.79. Right now, Bionanogenomics is floating around $1.70 range to 71. Over on StockTwits, people are voicing their opinions. Lots of bots about as well, so be careful about all the information you see here. So there was some news. There was a press release dropped today by Bionanogenomics. This was from research, a publication coming out of the Institut Curie. This is over in France. The Institut Curie is an international expert for several types of cancer, including eye cancers, pediatric tumors, breast cancers, and sarcomas. So the study was analyzing optical genome mapping as a method to identify HRD, which is homologous recombination deficiency, and this was for breast cancer samples. A quick Google shows when our body is unable to repair breaks in DNA, this is called homologous recombination deficiency. So the study reported that optical genome mapping was successful in analyzing all levels of HRD in all samples. So it can potentially improve genomic profiling of solid tumor samples, and it can offer an efficient, lower cost method for detecting HRD with greater sensitivity than whole genome sequencing. What does greater sensitivity mean? According to cancer.gov, they said the frequency with which a test shows a true positive result among individuals who actually have the disease or the genetic variant in question. So when they analyzed these 15 samples for breast cancer samples, they were investigating optical genome mapping's ability to identify HRD tumors, which are hypersensitive to some classes of drugs. In particular, these are PARP inhibitors. It said the optical genome mapping did really well. It identified a high number of tandem duplication and insertion events, large-scale genomic alterations, and it also identified some subclonal variants that are missed by whole genome sequencing. And although whole genome sequencing is commonly used for HRD detection, the authors of this study that was published highlighted the challenges associated with using traditional methods, and they cited optical genome mapping's robust detection of large structural variants with high resolution. Yet again, they recommended that this could be evidence for the potential application to use this as a first-line method in solid tumor analysis for the identification of HRD. So Eric Homeland said that this study shows that optical genome mapping can overcome the limitations of traditional methods. They can capture greater genomic events reflective of HRD, and this may translate into more patients being qualified for life-saving treatments such as PARP inhibitors. And upon the news right there, we saw them open up. Pretty tasty, pretty fine, and we saw them shoot up. So from Tuesday to Wednesday, they were like $1.64, 65. It opened up at $1.74, 75. So with top institutions in the world finding, Bionanogenomics Sapphire system and optical genome mapping very useful, discovering new things, showing its ability for, gold standards traditional cytogenomics, and how it can actually outperform some traditional cytogenetic methods, as well as comparing it to whole genome sequencing. And we know there's a lot of money going into companies, and some companies are getting a lot of adoption, and whole genome sequencing is starting to be used, and they want to embed it into the NHS. So if we can also detect, some variants that are missed by whole genome sequencing, which are important, would the NHS then be obliged, in order to keep, high standards of patient care, to do the best interest of the patient? Would they be obliged that if they send them for a genomic test for whole genome sequencing, to confirm it, would they have to then also use optical genome mapping to look for other variants, which may be missed by whole genome sequencing? In January, we have an event coming up. This event is going to be, the symposium. So remember a few years back when the symposium hit, and we were in a bull market, and there was a short squeeze as well, and it was just going through the roof. Bionanogenomics, it went from like 50 cents in the December of 2020, and in January 2021, it just went through the roof. It went to like $15.69, I think, an all-time high. I'm not sure in this kind of market that we're in, and with this many shares available on the market as well, we could see a short squeeze and the stock price rising so fast. But I think that the technology of this company is super useful. There's so much utility for it. And during the symposium, the people that are coming, the customers, people presenting, all of the speakers, they're going to be talking about what they've been using the optical genome mapping system, Sapphire system, for. One of the topics is going to be cancer, blood cancers, heme malignancies. So they're going to share the results from the studies that they've done, global researchers across the globe. They're going to be talking about optical genome mapping for research in myelodysplastic syndrome, chronic lymphocytic leukemias, lymphoma, and acute myeloid leukemia. The speakers are going to highlight and are going to focus on how the new tools, the new Sapphire system, finds more pathogenic chromosomal aberrations while also simplifying laboratory workflows. Tuesday, they're going to talk about blood cancers as well, but this is going to be scientists and clinicians from leading hospitals, and they're also going to talk about solid tumors. So not only is it going to be scientists, clinicians from leading hospitals, medical research institutions in the United States and across Europe, they're going to talk about how optical genome mapping has allowed them to assess genomic aberrations in a wide range of blood cancers and solid tumors. And again, they're saying, they're not saying the Sapphire system is going to replace everyone and replace everything. They're saying that it's complementary technique that may be used with next generation sequencing. And if they're able to use them together, they said this will be able to unlock a broader spectrum of genetic variants. They're going to be able to have a more complete cancer genome profile, and they're going to be able to discover new actionable biomarkers. So if you have these biomarkers and they're actionable, if a certain type of cancer, a certain type of biomarker, if they said, oh, it's more susceptible to this type of drug, it could be very useful to know that kind of information. Then they're also going to speak about on the next day, on the Wednesday, the 25th of January, they're going to talk about optical genome mapping to uncover genetic variations that contribute to, rare, undiagnosed genetic disease. Okay, so I think they said here in the UK, rare disease affects about 1 in 17 people. They'll be affected by a rare disease at one point or some point in their life. So this amounts to around about 3.5 million people, and there are more than 7,000 rare diseases. That being said, over a 10-year period, it's cost England, the NHS in England, the National Health Service, in excess, so over £3.4 billion, because there's this diagnostic odyssey. They're searching for reasons as to why people have certain symptoms or what kind of rare disease they have or why their body's reacting in a certain way. So this diagnostic odyssey is expensive, and it's affecting people's lives. They're also going to be looking into developmental disorders and reproductive disorders. So the presentations are going to surround that and how important it is to do structural variation, analysis in order to solve unresolved cases. There will also be data from large multi-site studies that focus on prenatal and postnatal applications for optical genome mapping. And then they're going to move on the Thursday to cell bioprocessing. So they're talking about optical genome mapping's ability to outperform traditional cytogenetic methods in order to screen producer cell lines and research cell lines for genomic instability and off-target events, ensuring the genomic integrity and stability of cell lines. Bioprocessing, defined as any process that uses complete living cells or their components, e.g. bacteria, enzyme, chloroplast, to obtain the products. So an example of bioprocessing: therapeutic proteins, polysaccharides, vaccines and diagnostics, specialty products and industrial chemicals, antibiotics, value-added foods, agricultural products and fuels, chemicals, and fiber from renewable resources. So people will probably ask in the comments, do you think this is going to be a catalyst for the stock to fly through the roof? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. We know what the marketplace is like, and I think the market at the moment, I think they really react well. Looking at PacBio, they really react well to adoption of machines and scaling up in revenues. That's what they react mostly to, so although people may be coming out with, some really good research and saying that it's super useful, until we see a growth in sales and revenue, any spike in the stock price may be short-lived. So I still believe in this company heavily. I've nearly all in on Bionanogenomics. So I sold my oil plays, Occidental Petroleum, and I took between 230 to 300% profit on those oil plays. And I put all of it into Bionanogenomics when it hit below $1.50. So I think at $1.43 is when I went in heaviest, and it continued to drop. It actually dropped a week later or a few weeks later to $1.38. So I could have even got better value for money. At least I picked up as many shares as I could. I'm happy with my position now, and I'm just going to sit and keep researching, and I'm going to keep understanding as much as I can about genomics, how much funding's coming into that space, and carefully watching and waiting to see how much adoption we're going to get in the next year or so. I'm going to keep looking at how much it's costing for them to make sales, who is adopting the machine, for what uses, what kind of research is coming out, what kind of pilot programs do they currently have. And I want to look at lots of different medical professionals and see the statements as well across Twitter, LinkedIn, Google, anything that I can find. And in doing so, I've been looking at this company for around about, I think it's been nearly 2 years now. Has it been 2 years? Yeah, it must be around 2 years that I've been looking at bionanogenomics. And every day I continue to research. So I do a quick Google search, LinkedIn, Twitter. I look across all the platforms. Some people send me articles from China as well. I wish you guys all the best. I find genomics super interesting. I love to, uncover what people are currently doing in the genomic space. I've got many different tabs open at the top of the screen here, but I'm just putting it in bite-sized chunks because I'm going to be reviewing and utilizing, lots of different articles and government websites to see what they're planning for the future in terms of genomics. Please remember, none of this is financial advice, for entertainment only. I wish you guys a lovely week, and I wish you good health, long life, happiness, and I hope you grow your wealth. All the best. Mr. Invest a Lot, over and out, baby.